Hello everybody, my name is Rachel and welcome to my weekly wrap-up of June 21st, 2015. I apologize for the really bad lighting in this video, but there is a thunderstorm rolling through right now and yeah, I can't really fix the lighting there. So I'm going to tell you what I read this past week. Strangely, I was on vacation all this week and I only finished 3 books because I was doing other things, I guess. And one of those things that I was doing instead of reading was traveling. I took a kind of 2-day trip up to the St. Paul, Minneapolis area, and I got to meet Bree from Stories from the Shelf, and it was fantastic. She took me to a bookstore in Minneapolis called Uncle Hugo's Science Fiction Bookstore, and it was everything I dreamed of and more. And she can probably attest to the fact that we didn't take any pictures or do any videos because not a lot of time, but also distraction. I think like every 30 seconds I was going, oh my god, Bree, they have this. Did you see this? It's such a beautiful book. Anyway, thank you for putting up with me. I had a really, really great time, and I will do a book haul of some type to show you what I bought when I was up there. So it was a really, really awesome end to my vacation, and I am really, really glad that I drove up there. The first book that I finished this week was the audiobook of The Magician's Land by Grossman. This is the 3rd and final book in his Magician series, and the first half of this is basically a heist storyline with Quentin getting together with some other magicians to retrieve something, and then the second half is how that heist storyline connects to what you're learning in the chapters that are from Elliot's POV in the magical land of Fillory. I wasn't as into the plot of this book. It just didn't capture my interest the way that the plot of the second book, The Magician King, did. That's not a reflection on like the quality of the story. It's just I wasn't as into it for some reason. What I did really enjoy, of course, is the character development and the character growth. There's one thing in this book that is just, I loved it so much. That was when I just could not stop listening, and I can't tell you what it is because that would be major spoilers, but if you've read the book, it's that thing that Quentin does, and you get your cast back, and whoa. That was just a huge turning point for how I thought about Quentin as a character, and I stopped thinking about him as being so selfish and immature when he did that for some reason. I think Grossman does a really great job of developing his characters without completely changing them. Yeah, they start out as unlikable, and you do understand them and maybe like them more by the final book because they do mature, they do grow up, they do redeem themselves in some ways, but they do not become completely different people. They are still screwed up, they're still a little damaged, they're still that original person inside, and so it's not all happy sunshine, rainbows, and puppies by the end. It's real, it feels real. Like, this is what real people are like when they change. They don't become a different person, they just evolve. And I liked that. I liked how that felt with the character development. The second book that I finished was the 3rd book in the Glamorous History series by Mary Robinette Kowal called Without a Summer. And if you know anything about this period in history, you'll know that there really was a volcano that blew up and changed like global weather for a couple of years, and there really was a year in England where there wasn't a summer. And that's the time period that Kowal has taken, and she has woven that in with her magical alternate timeline or world of Regency England. And so in this book, our main characters, the couple Jane and Vincent, have returned to England from their adventure in Belgium/France. They have physically recovered from the events in the previous book, but maybe not emotionally, and they go to London to work on a glamour project, and they take Jane's younger sister Melody with them to hopefully get her out in society, and hopefully she'll attract a husband, because there really aren't any eligible young men where Melody lives with their parents. And while in London, there are more uprisings and murmurings, and people speaking out against coldmongers who have a form of glamour, the magical system, that allows them to lower the temperature. People are blaming the very, very bad weather on the coldmongers, making them a scapegoat for something that they really have absolutely no control over. And there's basically like a political problem and like riots going on, and Jane and Vincent get pulled into a plot involving this, and they have to save the day. And I like this story. I don't know how I feel about the coldmonger aspect because I think that's a form of glamour that was just thrown in. I don't think it's ever referred to in the previous two books, so I was surprised. I didn't understand why this sort of thing would never have been mentioned before. I thought that glamour was purely about like bending light, and it's not. It's more than that, which is nice. I like that the magical system is becoming more complex, but I wish that this had been seeded a bit better in previous books. I really just enjoy that these books are a lot about the inner workings of these characters' marriage and how they are working out their relationship with each other. This book has a lot to do with Vincent's father, who is a very sadistic, abusive, emotionally abusive man who has really warped Vincent's self-esteem and sense of self, and they have to deal with this man face to face in this book. And that was really interesting from a character development perspective, to see how this man has an effect on Jane, to see his effect on Vincent, and then see how this couple deals with that together. It was very nice to read about. And the final book that I read this week was Night of Shadows by Roger Zelazny, the 9th book out of 10 in the Amber Chronicles. I'm so close to being done with my reread of this series. This is kind of a odd book in a way. I mean, it's still in the middle of Merlin's quest to find out who has been trying to kill him and why. He's solved part of the mystery, but now he's on to the other part of the mystery. And this is like a strange timeout in that, because in between discovering things from the main storyline in this book, he gets pulled into this black and white world in between shadow worlds, and he's forced the pattern of Amber and the Logris of the Courts of Chaos are kind of sentient, and they've been fighting each other. And because Merlin is an initiate of both of these powers, they're trying to get him to pick or choose between these power sources to change the balance of power and change the balance of the fight, I guess. And Merlin is trying really hard to not choose. He doesn't want to choose, but they're still going to make him duke it out over things. And that was interesting because I enjoyed getting more development about these sources of power, and because of the way that the story works and this world in between worlds works, you get sort of cameos from previous characters, including one of Corwin, and they're not real people, or they're like recordings of real people, but it was a really interesting way to bring some characters back, like some people who are dead or missing, and remind the reader that these people are here, they're part of the story. So I enjoyed that, but I know for all that I didn't like some parts of Corwin's character, I think that I prefer him over Merlin. Merlin just isn't as powerful a presence in the story as I think Corwin was, so really looking forward to the 10th book and finally getting the answer about where Corwin has been and seeing Corwin and Merlin meet each other again. What I'm currently reading 5 things, and I gotta finish some of these. I am buddy reading The People in the Trees by Hanya Yanagihara with Ottavio from the Galilean Library. I am so behind. I'm just barely at the end of the first section, so I need to get on this and read this. I'm also reading Valor and Vanity by Mary Robinette Kowal, the 4th book in the Glamorous Histories. This is the one with the Barbary Corsairs, and it's been described as Jane Austen writes Ocean's 11, which is a pretty fun description because who doesn't want a Regency era heist story set in Venice? Also, I love Jane Austen, and I love Ocean's 11. I love that movie. Also, of course, I'm working on 2 books and I'm not going to be finishing until the end of the month. One is Dahlgren by Samuel R. Delany. I was going to do an update on the halfway point, but I haven't had time. So I think I will do a kind of meandering impressions video once I have finished it. I'm not sure that I could really review this book. We'll see what I manage to come up with. This is a strange, strange book. It is so 1960s. It's basically about 1960s counterculture with the sexual revolution, race relation, the civil rights movement, and the hippies and everything, free love, that, yes. The other big book that I'm reading throughout the month is Dune by Frank Herbert for Paul's Dune and June read-along. very happy that I decided to reread this book this month. It is very good. It's as good as I remember it being when I read it like 8 years ago. And I also rewatched the 2000 sci-fi miniseries this past week, which is not as good as I remember it being. The book is far superior. I just have a lot of problems with some of the casting. They explain the plot and the political setup pretty well in it, but I don't like some of the casting. Oh, I almost forgot. My audiobook right now is Gulp by Mary Roach, which is her book about the alimentary canal, like the mouth, the throat, the stomach. It's not as gross as I thought it was going to be, honestly. I should have finished this when I was driving home on Saturday, but I didn't, so I'll finish that this coming week. It is very interesting. It's very good. And of course, like everything that I've been listening to on audiobook by Mary Roach, I recommend it. And that's everything that I read this past week. That's what I'm currently reading. I gotta wrap this up and go take care of some stuff. Also eat lunch because I'm starving. So that's a terrible ending. Thank you guys for putting up with me. If you've read any of these books, want to talk about them, please comment down below. Let me know what you guys have been doing this past week. I feel like I've missed stuff that's been going on in BookTube because I've been on the road and trying to catch up. So yeah, let me know what's been going on with you in your life, and I will talk to you guys again in my next video. Bye. That was thunder.